Good morning. This is Bobby Dupre with the Bobby Dupre Show, presented to you each Thursday morning at 7 a.m. and of course it replays in its entirety on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. And of course many of you, like my new friends from Florida, are watching it on their computers or maybe their iPhone, iPad, whatever device they're using on the internet. The Bobby Dupre Show worldwide. You see that big old world just whirling around in the background. Mm-hmm. And that was an idea. We always saying it's worldwide, so let's show a map. And you think we reaching out there, Steve? Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Steve says sure, we're reaching out there. And of course, we want to welcome all of you, and this is my sidekick here, Andrew.
Good morning.
And we have a real good amount of pictures. We think they're pretty interesting. One, of course, is one of our sponsors of the program since we started the television portion. Am I right, young man?
Correct.
Well, you weren't there, but you'll take my word.
I watched television
you were watching
in those days. I was in the radio in those days.
There you go. There you go. But anyhow, we have some pictures, and we've got some articles, and we have some death notices of some friends that we knew pretty well, or we knew some of the children, or relatives, or maybe classmates, whatever the case would be. We try to bring the news of the death, and at the same time, if we know anything personal that's good, we mention it. Mm-hmm. Like the 5-year-old that was shot, we thought accidentally, possibly by a brother. Well, when the police kept investigating a little bit more, it became a pretty tight little case to break. Mm-hmm. But the telephone, the cell phone, I think, was...
the cell phone helped tie in some timelines.
That mm-hmm. this young fella, the 16-year-old, which was visiting at that home,
and the police lab with the gun,
and a car drove off, and it looked like it was a drive-by shooting, but that was actually that young man that was leaving in the car after the shooting, and mm-hmm. This 16-year-old has now been charged with murder, and I think they've named him in the name in the newspaper. I think
I hadn't seen yet.
Something tells me that I saw that, but anyhow, it was a sad case. It started off, we thought it was an accident. We thought possibly it was the 5-year-old that got killed. We thought possibly it was an accidental pistol shot from his brother, 7-year-old, right, that was there. So anyhow, the case, the young boy was buried this last weekend, and we want to offer sympathies to all of the family and friends. It's certainly hard to take. Did you know Al Ransom from Baton Rouge?
I know the name. Al
Ransom, I knew him from insurance. He started a firm that helped business people with their workers' compensation coverages, mm-hmm. and was probably the best authority on the workers' comp laws of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. Wrote some articles on it, possibly some books on it. And I remember that he spent a lot of his own personal money attempting to get a track license, or a horse racing track license, for the Assumption Parish there, right out of Baton Rouge. Spent a lot of time and money, and never could get that. I saw where he died, and I just want to mention that because a lot of people knew him back in probably in the 80s is when he was very active, but he was still operating that same company, UC
Trust.
UC Trust. Mm-hmm. And anyhow, I knew his wife, Darlene, very well also. Mm-hmm. Back in those days, we would, spent a lot of time in Baton Rouge, mm-hmm. Lobbying for some of the small independent Louisiana companies. And that brings me up to, there was an article in the Business Honors section of the Morning Advocate Sunday, and one of them being honored, of course, is Miss Rose Hudson, who is Donovan Hudson's wife. Donovan Hudson, of course, is from Opelousas, and many of you remember his father, Doc Hudson, State Representative Charles, but went by Doc.
The interstate right out here is named after him, right when you enter St. Landry Parish, not far from where we are in the studio.
I know there's a sign by Washington. And anyhow, Rose has been in charge of the lottery for the Louisiana operation, I guess maybe almost since it started, and that's been a number of years ago. That's years ago. And in let's see where she finished. Okay, in 1989, she finished the LSU at Baton Rouge E.J. Uso College, which is a master's program. And Mr. E.J. Uso was big, round, jolly fella, and from Donaldsonville, and he was the founder of Security Life Insurance Company and a number of funeral homes. And we knew him, he was very, very powerful, I guess you could use the word, politically, and entertained once a year. He and his wife, they'd stand by the door, they'd have a open house party for Christmas. I guess it was around Christmas. And I went there several times, and they would greet everybody coming in at the front door. Little different from mingling with the crowd. They got to shake everybody's hand, and you got to thank them for being on the invite list. And of course, he sold that company for several $100 million, and he has a chair, I guess is what you call when something is a business called.
He funds a chair.
He funds a chair, and that's probably about 400 million.
Ooh, I don't know.
And
could be.
Or is it 400,000, and then the state puts up 600,000? It's something like that.
Must be.
It's $1 million. But anyhow, just little stories that comes to my mind when I see people like Al Ransom and I see Rose. I've got to meet her over the years.
She must have graduated before he funded that, because I don't remember it being Orso back at that time. But maybe so. Maybe it was. Maybe I got old.
It's been a long time.
I was long gone by the time she got out of school. She's much younger than me.
She'd been one of the first ones, probably.
Probably so. Could be.
See, that was in the early 80s is when, around 85 probably is when he sold the company, and right away he
funded it. Yep, that would have been right after me, you see.
And we didn't do our sponsors. Let's not forget our good sponsors.
I was going to forget the sponsors today. I'd have never remembered. You know me. Piggly Wiggly. Let's start right there. I hadn't started out the show with Piggly Wiggly in a while, but let me tell you, it's that time of the year. It's a good time to go and load up on your groceries. You know, those days are going to start getting longer.
And you know they have the fish and the shrimp and everything else.
All the stuff you need them for Friday. You know, everybody does that on it's Lent, so you're doing stuff for Lent. But don't forget about, Saturday and Sunday, you can eat meat. You know,
that's right.
How do I say that? Carnival. Carne is meat, and val is goodbye, right? So carnival means goodbye meat. That's what they say, carnival for Lent, all right? Now, see, I'm going to educate you a little bit.
Well, that sounds Spanish.
That's
not French.
Well, but it's all that Latin and Latin languages. But you can eat the meat on Saturday. You can eat the meat during the week, and they got boneless pork chops, $2.49 a pound. They got the boneless beef shoulder steaks, $3.99 a pound. Baby back loin ribs, $2.98 a pound. And fryers, they got fresh green cabbage, strawberries. You've been seeing the strawberries on the side of the road, and the strawberries are in the store as well. Go by Piggly Wiggly. 2 locations in Opelousas, 1 in Simsport. The pig knows best. And how about one more sponsor? Let's go with Carl's Thrift Away. You know, a friend of mine had to get his prescription updated here recently, and he called into his doctor, and the doctor called into Carl's. He says, I normally go with Carl's. I'm not going to tell you which friend, but he sits pretty close to me during the show. And you just call your doctor and let him know it's time for your renewal, and your doctor checks, make sure everything is good, and he makes that call in. You go get your prescription. Carl's has already got all that in their computer as well. End of the year, easy for you to file against your insurance.
He's going to have one for me this afternoon.
He'll be waiting for you nice and easy. So Go by Carl's.
Is that what you were talking about?
Well, I think it was. I think it was.
I'd forgotten I had called it a while ago.
And you can compound multiple prescriptions together to make it easier for you to take, one pill instead of taking 2 and 3 and 4 pills. Home decorating ideas, gifts. It's
Carl
springtime.
was at the function yesterday, LHC.
Where they cut the ribbon for
opening,
LHC's new building, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But go by Carl's, and that's 2 of my sponsors for the first part.
Well, let's take some pictures from, and we'll talk about LHC as one of our sponsors, and that's about enough. You're going to see this whole
LHC, all your home health care
needs. A beautiful, beautiful office facility on Heather Drive, and next to the health center. So now they have a health center. They have a beautiful swimming pool. They have a beautiful tennis court. And then now they have a multi-use office building that they call it a campus, and that's what it is.
Now, did I understand Keith Morris correctly? This might be the first building that LHC has built?
That they have built.
They're always buying buildings and they're acquiring and leasing. But it's sort of interesting that they never built a building before.
Built a building.
It's a beautiful place.
And they did it right.
And this is Miss Ginger Morris, of course, one of the founders there.
She was the founder,
that's
actually.
Right. It was her brainstorm.
That's correct. And she named, or Keith named, the 4 people that was
the first original patients.
Named them all and they live in Palmetto. And
some semi-ass for sure, and I forget the rest.
But it was very Johnson.
Johnson, right?
It's very interesting that they have that. I started my business. I never thought that I would have been around 55 years, in business, and didn't take. But they were not aged, but they were probably almost 30 years old when they got this business
I'd say so, probably in the 30s, early 30s. Yeah.
Early 30s when they started the business. They've been in business, by the way, in September it'll be 20 years. Right. It looked like yesterday.
So you got Ginger Mars there in the middle. I see Peter Strawitz over to the left.
Sang the national anthem.
And over to the right, I see Dickie Ollier, of course, is on the board, I guess.
On the board, been there with them since the beginning.
There's Monsignor Derwin off to the right, and I got Keith Mars kind of hiding behind the post, but I'll get him in just a second. And here we've got Harold Taylor, of course, one of the founders.
Original founders,
from
that's
Palmetto too, and we got Miss Frankie Bertrand with the Chamber. Yes. I see Miss Susie Peck with the District Attorney's Office, and also see Jake Delhomme, who's a board member for LHC. And of course, he and the Mars family have a lot in common about helping charity type work, ill people, plus the horse racing, kind of a combination there.
Combination. At night they can enjoy the
the
fruit of their efforts during the day.
Keith in the background there as Ginger's talking, a big crowd. Just to show you all the folks that are out there. And I saw Dr. King LaFleur hiding behind that sun. That sun was going down. It was bright. Well, he didn't have a cap on.
Show the better.
I'll get to him.
Anyhow, I went up to him. I was leaving. I had to leave. I had a 6 o'clock meeting. I had gone at 4:30 so I could visit with everybody. And I thought maybe he was having a little weak spell or something. So I went. He said, No, I don't want to get sunburned.
Getting out that sun. You don't have his cap on. That's the deal.
But wasn't that wonderful? In the morning it rained, big rain, heavy rain yesterday morning, and then sunshine, and they could hold it as an outdoor event. And there's Mark Majors from Melville, Louisiana, and his young son. And it's time for a.
We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll come back with more pictures and more stories on the Bobby Dupree Show in 1 minute.